Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Prof. Yan. Good morning, Prof. Swandi. And good morning, my friends. Chapter 13 is about sociolinguistics and education. I will continue from the first speaker by Mas Aris Ardianto Putra. Thanks, Mas Putra, for giving me chance. And I am a second speaker. I will discuss about education and worldwide English. In classrooms around the world, some of the same issues arise about whether minority languages should be used, and if so, how they should be incorporated into the instruction. Tan and Tan 2008 look at students' attitudes towards Singapore English and Standard English. The results from the attitudinal survey showed that the students appreciate the value of Standard English, but they do not feel that Singapore English is bad English. See the discussion of localization below. The authors interpret the result of their survey as an indication that the use of Singapore English in the classroom might be beneficial, at least to help children acquire literacy skills. Circles of English. Kachru 1986 introduced a set of terms for describing the role of English in different countries across the globe. The inner circle is described as regions in which English is used for almost all functions by the majority of the population. For example, the United States, the United Kingdom, or Australia. The outer circle contains countries in which there are originally non-native but institutionalized uses of English. For example, like the Philippines or South Africa. The expanding circle comprises countries in which English is learned as a foreign language, and in which it plays an increasingly important role in economic development. The different role of English in these societies contributes to differences in approaches to use of English in schooling. Here is Kachru's concentric circles representation of English. Let's see the inner. The countries like US, UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. The user of English is about 320 until 380 million. And other like Singapore, India, and Malaysia, the user of English is about 150 until 300 million. And expanding, the countries like Korea, China, Denmark, Japan, Brazil, and Indonesia, and the user of English is about 100 until 1,000 million. In the context of both the outer and expanding circles, the concept of globalization is also relevant. Global development means that there is an interaction between global influences and local cultures. That is, there is hybridization. The norms of the target standard variety, like British and American, are not simply adapted because that is what is taught in school. Instead, local influences are intertwined with global ones. Elite closure. The concept of elite culture has been used to describe how people with power use language to reproduce their privileged positions. In the words of Myers Cotton, 1993. Myers Gordon used this concept in her work in Africa, where colonial languages such as English, French, and Portuguese are spoken by a minority of the population and limiting participation in higher education and government to those who speak those languages is an effective gatekeeping measure. Research by Wright 2002 discussed the historical situation of the status of English in South Africa, as well as the contemporary everyday practices which reproduce and dominance of English country. English in Europe. English is sometimes described as a threat to the survival of other languages in Europe, and its widespread use challenges to the official English United policy on promoting linguistic diversity. English is a lingua franca throughout Europe. It is no wonder less used of English is increasingly in higher education programs. There is some speculation about the long-term effects of increased use of English throughout Europe, including position the development of Euro-English, which is distinct from varieties spoken in inner circle countries. In some cases, the spread of English is equated with the spread of capitalism and consumerism. Philipson 2008 objected to use to term lingua franca in this case. He cautioned against the adoption of English as the language of higher education as response to market forces, and advocates careful policy and planning to prevent it displacing other languages. Still English in Europe, Balton and Kudiva 2012 suggested that the use of English parallel to Swedish was a pragmatic reality for those in the natural sciences, and greater use was also reported in the social sciences, with less use found in the study of humanities and law. The example of Europe illustrates that English is not only seen as threat to other languages in post-colonial contexts or in situations in which it is the dominant language spoken in community. Its use in education is seen as both necessary for participation in global markets and as a means of creating social inequalities. Summary. This chapter looks at how linguistic inequality is embedded in education in three different contexts. The first in cases where students speak non-standard dialects, second in communities where minority languages are spoken, and the third in countries where English is not a community language but is the medium of education. In all of these contexts, social inequalities are perpetuated by ideologies which privilege certain ways of speaking and social structures which impede access to higher status codes for some portions of populations. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Good luck. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.